Hello everyone, welcome to the video on GPAT 2022 Crash Course MCQ series. In this video, I am going to explain previous GPAT questions from pharmacology and its answer explanation. This is part 12. I have already made 11 parts of pharmacology. Please go through my channel. This is my YouTube channel. If you like the video content, do share and subscribe the channel. Let's get into the topic. Which of the following side effect of ACE inhibitor results from inhibition of bradykinin breakdown? Now, angiotensin converting enzyme is responsible for the formation of angiotensin II. Angiotensin II is a potent vasoconstrictor which will cause hypertension. Along with that, this enzyme also responsible for the breakdown of bradykinin. Now, bradykinin is responsible for the production of prostaglandin, pain, bronchoconstriction and dry cough. So, what happens when you use inhibitors of this enzyme? The breakdown of bradykinin is also inhibited. So what happens? All this becomes side effects of ACE inhibitors. So dry cough is the side effect of ACE inhibitors. Now understand this one. Productive cough gives with phlegm or mucus. Whereas dry cough do not have this phlegm or mucus. ACE inhibitors will cause dry cough but not productive cough. So option D is the right answer. Getting to the next question. Identify antihistamine drug with additional serotonin receptor blocking activity with good appetite stimulant property. Now, cyproheptadine is the answer. It has got antihistamine as well as serotonin receptor blocking activity. Whereas cimetidine, ranitidine are H2 receptor antagonist, whereas chlorpheniramine is H1 receptor antagonist. Chlorpheniramine is used to treat allergy, whereas cimetidine, ranitidine are used to treat ulcers. Whereas cyproheptadine has got both the qualities which is used to cause appetite stimulation. So option A, cyproheptadine is right answer for this question. Moving to the next one. Now, which of the following are the mechanism of action of digitalis glycosides? Now, digitalis glycosides has got direct and indirect actions are there. Now, the direct action is it inhibits sodium potassium ATPase. Because of this, calcium accumulation in the cardiac tissue occurs, which will increases force of cardiac contraction. Inotropic action is increased. Now, similarly, it has got an indirect action which is nothing but known as vagomimetic action. Vagomimetic action means parasympathetic system is activated. Because of that, reduction in the arterioventricular conduction rate will be there. That means heart rate is reduced. The conduction velocity is reduced. Now, the other one, increase in cardiac output. See, when calcium levels are increased, it causes increase in cardiac output. So, all the three are mechanisms of action of digitalis glycosides. Whereas this one, acceleration of arterioventricular conduction rate. No, this is not there. We have already seen it has got this action. It reduces heart rate, which is because of vagomimetic action. So this is true, but not this one. Now, when you see the answers, option A, 1, 2, 3 are right. So option B is the correct option. Don't get confused. This one is not there. The best advantage with digoxin or digitalis glycoside is with reduced oxygen demand, it increases cardiac output. Why? Because it is reducing heart rate. Reducing heart rate means reducing oxygen demand. So option B is the right answer. Moving to the next one. The following is not true for furosemide or furosemide. Furosemide is a loop diuretic. Now it causes hypokalemia. Yes, potassium levels are reduced. Now it causes hypouricemia. No. In fact, thiazide and loop diuretics increase uric acid. Now, increased levels of uric acid may also result in gout disease. So, both the drugs will increase the levels of uric acid in the body. So, this is what is the effect. So, it causes hyperuricemia, but not hypouricemia because it is increasing uric acid. So, option B is the right answer because the question is about not true about furosemide. Now, it causes hypomagnesemia. True. Furosemide reduces the levels of magnesium. It acts by inhibiting sodium reabsorption. True. All of them are true except choice B. It causes hyperglycemia, not hypoglycemia. Moving to the next one. Which of the following about the varicella zoster virus is not true? Again, see, all these questions are not true kind of questions. Let us see our options. Now, varicella develops after an individual is exposed to varicella zoster virus for the first time. True. Varicella develops when someone gets exposed to this particular virus. Next one, herpes zoster. Now understand this, herpes zoster develops from reactivation of the virus later in life. See, when someone gets Varicella for the first time, it is varicella zoster virus infection. But it stays inside as a latent form, but after some time it may be reactivated. Reactivated form is known as herpes zoster. Understand this. Varicella zoster, reactivation causes herpes zoster. This is also true. Now there are no vaccines for this virus. No. In fact, we have a varicella zoster vaccine is there. It is live attenuated vaccine. So this is not true. So option C is right answer. This is not true. Now the last one, the infection results in post-herpetic neuralgia. True. Neuralgia means inflammation in the neurons, and this infection, typical characteristics is neuralgia. So all the three are correct except what is not true one? This one. It has got vaccines, but it says no vaccine is there. No, it has got vaccine. So option C is right answer. Moving to the next one. Now RNA molecule having catalytic intrinsic activity are called. Let us see one by one. The first one, small nuclear RNA, no. They will process mRNA, they are present in the nucleus. Now they do not have intrinsic activity. mRNA, messenger RNA, is responsible for protein synthesis. It has got no enzyme activity. Ribosomal RNA is also a protein without any catalytic activity. Ribozyme is the one which has got catalytic activity. The zyme is derived from enzyme, ribo is from RNA. So enzymatic intrinsic catalytic activity is there with ribozyme. Option D is correct answer. Next one. Which of the following inactive clotting factor is activated by vitamin K coenzyme? Now look at them. See, vitamin K causes carboxylation of some of the cofactors. Some of the factors. This carboxylation occurs to glutamic acid, and this is what activates those factors. And the factors are 2, 7, 9, 10. Now factor 2 is nothing but prothrombin. Now factor 7 is proconvertin, whereas factor 9 is thromboplastin, whereas factor 10 is Stewart factor. So these are all the factors. So option B is the right answer. Moving to the next one. Now, retention hyperbilirubinemia is caused by, retention means it is retaining inside the liver. See, red blood cells undergo breakdown and it results in bilirubin. And that bilirubin is excreted from liver through intestine, it goes out of the body. Now, liver is the one which is causing this breakdown of red blood cells and bilirubin. Now, retention, remaining inside the liver is, and that results in hyperbilirubinemia is because of non-clearance of bilirubin. So bilirubin will not be cleared from the liver and it accumulates, and that is what causes retention hyperbilirubinemia. Moving to the next one. Which of the following pair of drugs considered as selective alpha-1 blockers? Let us see one by one. See, formoterol, salbutamol, both of them are beta-2 agonists which are used as bronchodilators. The question is about alpha-1 blocker. No, this is not. Now, the next one, timolol, metoprolol, both of them are beta-1 blockers. Both of them are used to treat hypertension, angina, arrhythmia kind of diseases. This is not. Now, prazosin, terazosin, look at this. Prazosin, terazosin are alpha-1 blockers which are used to treat hypertension as well as benign prostatic hyperplasia. So, this pair is alpha-1 blocker. This is the right answer. Option C is the right answer. Now, let us see the last one, clonidine, methyl-dopa, both of them are alpha-2 agonists which are used as centrally acting hypertension treating drugs. So this is alpha-2. The question is about alpha-1, so prazosin, terazosin is the answer. Moving to the next one. Now the following combination of drugs are used to treat traveler's diarrhea. Now see, traveler's diarrhea, the best drug to treat is cotrimoxazole. Now cotrimoxazole is a combination of trimethoprim and sulfamethoxazole. Now trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole is known as cotrimoxazole. This is what is used to treat traveler's diarrhea. Now, moving to the next one. The protein that are modified to reduce the toxicity without altering immunogenicity are known as toxoids. You know, tetanus toxoid, it is known as tetanus toxoid. Clostridium tetani is a bacterium, and that protein is modified and immunogenicity is retained, and that is called as toxoid. And vaccines, there are multiple types of vaccines are there. DNA, RNA, protein derived vaccines are there. Now sera is the liquid supernatant of blood. See, when you centrifuge blood, all the cells will go down and the top layer will be of light yellow colored liquid, and this liquid is known as sera, which has got clotting factors. Now anti-sera means sera which contains antibodies. Sera which contains antibodies is known as anti-sera, which is used in passive immunity. Now here the answer for this question is toxoid, a protein which is modified to retain immunogenicity. Moving to the next one. Volume of blood flows per unit time of tissue is known as perfusion rate. So there is a particular organ is there, and to that how much amount of blood flows is known as perfusion rate per unit time. Now resident time means how much time a particular thing is retained in a tissue. Gastric emptying time means how much time it takes to empty the gastric contents. Elimination rate is how much time it takes to eliminate that particular drug. So here the option B, perfusion rate, is the answer. Now cardiac output is, see, read it carefully. Cardiac output means the volume of blood ejected by the left ventricle per minute. If it is per beat, it becomes stroke volume. Per beat is stroke volume. Per minute is what becomes cardiac output, and you are specific with the left ventricle. Say either left ventricle, right ventricle in a healthy individual, per beat they will be ejecting 70 ml. Both of them are roughly same, but most probably we talk about left ventricle. It is not about auricle. It is left ventricle per minute. So option C is the right answer. Moving to the next one. The adverse effect that is not associated with beta-2 agonist administration in the management of asthma does not include. So all three of them are adverse effects except one. Now what happens? See, beta-2 receptor, it causes smooth muscle dilation. So it results in peripheral vasodilation. Yes, true. It results in fine tremor. Because see, beta-2 agonist has got slight instinctive beta-1 action, and because of that, on skeletal muscle, it also causes a kind of fine tremor. Similarly, tachycardia occurs because of a slight activity against beta-1 receptor. What is not there? Hypertension. No, it causes hypotension because peripheral vasodilation, blood vessel is dilated and it results in hypotension, and this is not. So option B is the right answer. Hypertension is not caused by beta-2 agonists. Now, the last one, identify the false statement about benzodiazepines from the following. See, benzodiazepine is a very popular group. The popularity is because of very high therapeutic index. That means the drug toxicity is very low, very low. No, look at the options. Again, this is does not, the statement false. You need to find out the false one. See, benzodiazepines are useful in insomnia. True. They activates GABA. They causes hyperpolarization, and they are used to treat insomnia. Benzodiazepines reduce anxiety. True. Benzodiazepines produce muscle relaxation. Yes, they cause central muscle relaxation. What is not true? Benzodiazepine does not cause. They treat convulsions. Convulsions are because of continuous neuronal firing, and that can be treated by enhancing GABA neurotransmission. So benzodiazepines will not cause. They treat convulsions. So option D is the right answer. So these are all the set of 15 questions of pharmacology. Thank you for watching this video. If you like the video, please subscribe and share the video.